Billy the Kid, a name that echoes through the annals of American history as one of the Wild West's most enigmatic and infamous figures. But who was this crazed young man whose legend lives to this day for over 100 years? Was he a ruthless outlaw, a misunderstood youth navigating a harsh frontier, or perhaps a bit of both? In this video of his life and legacy, we'll uncover the truth behind the myths, examine the pivotal events that cemented his reputation as an infamous outlaw, and reveal the circumstances of his untimely demise. To truly understand the legend of Billy the Kid, we must first delve into the life of the man behind the name. Early life of Billy the Kid. Born William Henry McCarty Jr. On November 23, 1859 in New York City, Billy's story begins far from the dusty plains of the American West. His mother, Catherine McCarty, was an Irish immigrant who came to the United States seeking a better life during the Great Famine. His father, Patrick McCarty, played a fleeting role in Billy's life, disappearing when Billy was just 7 or 8 years old, possibly due to death under uncertain circumstances in the late 1860s. Following Patrick's absence, Catherine raised Billy and his younger brother Joseph alone, moving frequently in search of stability. They lived in Indiana and Kansas, and finally in New Mexico, where Catherine married William Antrim in 1873. Yet this union, instead of providing a stable family environment, brought more turbulence. Antrim eventually rejected the family and Billy and Joseph to look after themselves after Catherine died of the illness tuberculosis on the 16th of September, 1874. At the tender age of 15, Billy was left an orphan, experiencing a world marked by hardship, limited support, and adversity, which significantly impacted his development. This early exposure to loss, abandonment, and adversity profoundly shaped Billy's character and life choices. After his mother's death, Billy found temporary shelter in a boarding house, where he worked to earn his keep. Initially regarded as a polite and hardworking boy, he soon found himself struggling to survive in an unforgiving environment. His involvement in crime began with minor thefts, which gradually escalated as his circumstances became more difficult. In 1875, just a year after his mother's passing, Billy's first arrest for horse theft is often cited as a key event in his early criminal activities. Living in Silver City, New Mexico, he and his accomplice, John R. Mackey, were caught stealing 3 horses from a nearby military post, leading to Billy's first incarceration. The federal authorities arrested Billy under the name Henry Antrim on September 23, 1875. He was shackled and held in a local jail, but his stay was brief. 2 days later, in a daring getaway, Billy somehow found his way up through the jail's chimney, getting, as the saying goes, its first taste at notoriety. This daring break was publicized throughout the Silver City Herald, where he was portrayed as a juvenile delinquent starting a career of crime at only 15 years of age. This event showcased Billy's resourcefulness and played a role in shaping his emerging reputation, which would later become a central part of Wild West folklore. Following his escape from jail, Billy the Kid fled to Chloride Flats, likely seeking refuge among acquaintances or distant family connections. Notwithstanding his tender age, his capacity to stay off law enforcement's radar capitalized resourcefulness and a determination that would shape the rest of his life on the lam. This act of defiance not only secured his freedom, but also marked his official entry into the shadowy world of outlaws, where survival required cunning, courage, and a knack for navigating the perilous terrain of frontier justice. With time, Billy's metamorphosis from a punctilious street burglar toward a Wild West folk hero also began to form, for his actions became a part of American frontier folklore. After escaping, Billy's descent into deeper lawlessness was swift. He moved to horse theft, gambling, and association with other criminals, eventually developing a reputation that went beyond his immediate area. These earliest experiences of crime formed the basis for his image as a criminal and alerted him to a network of accomplices that would shape his career. By 1877, Billy had earned notoriety not just as a thief, but also as a dangerous figure involved in violent altercations. Such a debate took place in August of the same year when Billy shot and killed Francis Windy Cahill, a blacksmith, in a dispute, among others. This event, his first documented killing, cemented his status as a fugitive in the New Mexico and Arizona regions. Billy and Evans association. Billy's relationships with fellow outlaws also played a crucial role in shaping his early criminal career. One of the most influential figures in this period was Jesse Evans, a seasoned outlaw known for his exploits in cattle rustling and sharpshooting. Billy met Evans after fleeing Arizona in the wake of Cahill's death, and the older outlaw took on a mentorship role. Under Evans' tutelage, Billy learned critical skills for survival in the outlaw world, including sharpshooting, horsemanship, and the intricacies of cattle theft. This mentorship provided Billy not only with practical knowledge, but also a sense of belonging during a period of profound instability following his mother's death. Their camaraderie was built on mutual benefit. Evans gained a reliable accomplice, while Billy found guidance and protection in the cutthroat environment of the American frontier. Billy's foray with John Tunstall. However, the partnership between Billy and Evans eventually soured as their allegiances shifted. By 1878, Evans had aligned himself with Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan, two powerful figures in Lincoln County who controlled much of the local economy through monopolistic and often exploitative practices. This alliance put Evans at odds with John Tunstall, an English rancher and entrepreneur who had taken an interest in Billy. Tunstall, a newcomer to New Mexico, sought to challenge the dominance of Murphy and Dolan by establishing his own cattle business rooted in fair practices and mutual respect for the local community. Tunstall's approach contrasted sharply with the ruthless methods of Murphy and Dolan. While they relied on intimidation and manipulation to maintain control, Tunstall sought to uplift the community by providing fair wages and opportunities for local workers. Recognizing Billy's potential, Tunstall offered him legitimate work and a chance to break away from the lawless path he had been following. This relationship marked a turning point for Billy, who saw in Tunstall not just an employer, but a figure of moral integrity and mentorship unlike any he had encountered before. The alliance with John Tunstall placed Billy the Kid squarely in the crosshairs of Lincoln County's power struggle, setting him on a collision course with his former associates and the entrenched figures of Murphy and Dolan's faction. Billy first encountered Tunstall in 1877 while searching for work after the death of his mother. Tunstall, a young English rancher seeking to establish himself in the cutthroat world of Lincoln County's cattle industry, recognized Billy's potential and hired him as a ranch hand. This relationship was transformative for Billy, offering him stability, mentorship, and a sense of belonging during a period of turmoil. Tunstall's respectful and fair treatment stood in stark contrast to Billy's prior experiences of hardship and marginalization, providing him with a rare source of encouragement and trust. Historical accounts suggest that Tunstall's belief in Billy's abilities helped bolster his self-esteem, fostering a loyalty that would later drive Billy's actions during the Lincoln County War. Beyond employment, Tunstall imparted skills in ranching and business practices, introducing Billy to the dynamics of legitimate commerce and the complexities of Lincoln County's political and economic landscape. Tunstall's network of allies included Alexander McSween, a lawyer and business partner who shared Tunstall's vision of challenging the monopolistic control exerted by Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan. The bond between Tunstall and Billy was profound, offering Billy a surrogate father figure and a cause to rally behind in the face of escalating tensions. This burgeoning mentorship was cut tragically short on February 18, 1878, when Tunstall was ambushed and murdered by a posse acting under the orders of Murphy and Dolan. The posse, composed of local lawmen and hired gunmen, intercepted Tunstall near Hondo Canyon as he attempted to retrieve livestock seized as payment for alleged debts, Tunstall's death was brutal and unprovoked. He was shot and killed while trying to escape, and his body was further desecrated by his attackers. The killing was not just a personal loss for Billy, but also a flashpoint that ignited the Lincoln County War, a bloody conflict between rival factions vying for economic and political dominance. Billy's revenge. Tunstall's murder galvanized Billy the Kid and others loyal to the rancher, forming a group known as the Regulators. The Regulators sought justice for Tunstall's death, but their pursuit of retribution quickly escalated into a cycle of violence. Billy, driven by a mix of loyalty, grief, and a sense of injustice, emerged as a key figure in the conflict. His transformation from a young outlaw to a central player in the Lincoln County War began with acts of retaliation, including the assassination of Sheriff William Brady on April 1, 1878. Sheriff William J. Brady, an Irish immigrant and Civil War veteran, played a pivotal role in the violent struggle for control of Lincoln County during the late 1870s. A staunch ally of the Murphy-Dolan faction, Brady had been elected sheriff in 1875 with their backing, leveraging his position to enforce their dominance over the county's economic and political landscape. He became instrumental in suppressing opposition, including the rival faction led by John Tunstall and Alexander McSween. Brady's complicity in the ambush and murder of Tunstall marked him as a central figure in the escalating conflict, making him a prime target for retribution by the Regulators. The vigilante group formed in Tunstall's name. The turning point came on April 1, 1878, when Billy the Kid and several Regulators ambushed Sheriff Brady in the streets of Lincoln. The group, having taken refuge behind an adobe wall near Tunstall's store, had been lying in wait for an opportunity to strike. As Brady walked down the main street with 4 deputies, the Regulators unleashed a torrent of gunfire from their concealed position. Brady was struck multiple times, with reports suggesting he sustained at least a dozen wounds before collapsing in the dusty street. Deputy George Hindman, caught in the crossfire, was also mortally wounded in the attack. The ambush was swift and brutal, leaving little doubt of its deadly intent, though whether it was meticulously premeditated or a spontaneous act remains debated. After the initial barrage, Billy the Kid and his fellow Regulators rushed toward Brady's body, possibly aiming to retrieve his Winchester rifle or secure incriminating evidence that could support their cause. During this chaotic moment, Billy was shot in the thigh, an injury that underscored his willingness to confront law enforcement head-on. The assassination of Brady further entrenched the cycle of vengeance and violence in Lincoln County, intensifying the efforts of Murphy and Dolan's supporters to capture and eliminate the Regulators. Billy the Kid, already a notorious figure, now became one of the most wanted men in the territory. The Lincoln County War. The violence spiraled further in the months that followed. The Lincoln County War, as the conflict came to be known, was marked by a series of skirmishes, ambushes, and retaliatory killings, with over 30 individuals losing their lives, including lawmen, outlaws, and innocent bystanders. The struggle culminated in the infamous 5-day battle in Lincoln in July 1878, an intense confrontation that symbolized the peak of the hostilities. This pitched battle began on July 15th, when the Regulators fortified themselves inside McSween's house, preparing for a last stand against Murphy's better-equipped forces. As gunfire echoed through Lincoln, casualties mounted on both sides, with the Regulators facing mounting pressure from their adversaries. Murphy's faction, benefiting from superior resources and manpower, eventually gained the upper hand. The battle reached its tragic conclusion when U.S. cavalry units intervened, surrounding McSween's house and setting it ablaze. The flames forced the Regulators to flee under cover of darkness, leaving McSween and several of his supporters dead. The fire and the overwhelming force brought a devastating end to the conflict, although tensions and violence lingered in the aftermath. Despite Governor Wallace's proclamation offering amnesty to participants not already indicted for crimes, the Lincoln County War left deep scars on the region. The Murphy-Dolan faction, despite being instrumental in the violence, reasserted their dominance over Lincoln County's political and economic spheres. For Billy the Kid, however, the end of the war brought no respite. Relentlessly pursued by law enforcement, he became a fugitive and a symbol of defiance. His role in the conflict transforming him into one of America's most infamous outlaws. His exploits during and after the war cemented his place in folklore, ensuring the Lincoln County War and its key figures would remain etched in the annals of American frontier history. Billy's involvement in the Lincoln County War not only shaped his reputation as an outlaw, but also solidified his place in American legend. He was driven by a fierce loyalty to his slain mentor, John Tunstall, and an unrelenting determination to avenge Tunstall's death. This singular focus, coupled with his charisma and skill, marked him as both a hero and a villain, depending on perspective. Billy's actions during the war, such as his direct confrontation with Sheriff William Brady and participation in the five-day battle, reflected his complex character, a blend of youthful recklessness and calculated resolve. The war also highlighted the tangled dynamics of personal relationships, particularly Billy's rivalry with Jesse Evans, a supporter of Murphy and Dolan. Once allies under shared mentorship, the two men found themselves on opposite sides of a brutal conflict. Their confrontations during the war were marked by violence and a grudging respect for each other's abilities. Though their diverging loyalties, Billy to Tunstall and Jesse to Murphy, ensured that reconciliation was impossible. Even after the war, attempts by Jesse to mend their fractured bond failed, as the betrayals and bloodshed had left an unbridgeable rift between them. The alias William H. Bonney. Billy's choice of the alias William H. Bonney during this turbulent period also contributed significantly to his legend. Among several aliases he used, including Henry Antrim and William McCarty, Bonney stood out, likely chosen to craft a persona of strength and notoriety. John Tunstall referred to him as William Bonney, further embedding the name into the narrative of the Lincoln County War. Under this name, Billy carried out acts that would become the foundation of his myth, including high-profile killings and daring escapes. The alias not only provided a practical shield against law enforcement, but also became a symbol of rebellion, amplifying his reputation as a daring gunslinger. The mythos of Billy the Kid was further fueled by sensationalized newspaper accounts, which exaggerated his exploits and painted him as a larger-than-life figure. The name Billy the Kid came to embody the spirit of the Wild West, reckless, romanticized, and lawless. Billy's personal life. In addition to his exploits, Billy's personal life added depth to his legend, particularly his relationship with Paulita Maxwell. Born in 1864 to Lucien Bonaparte Maxwell, a wealthy and influential landowner, Paulita grew up amidst the social complexities of frontier life in New Mexico. Her family's prominence and connections to both Anglo and Hispanic communities positioned her as an alluring figure. Billy, known for his charm and ease with women, was captivated by Paulita. Their alleged relationship added a poignant romantic dimension to a life otherwise dominated by violence and defiance, humanizing the infamous outlaw. The true nature of Billy and Paulita's relationship remains elusive. While many accounts suggest they were romantically involved, conclusive evidence is scarce. Decades after Billy's death, Paulita denied any romantic affair in interviews, though she admitted to harboring feelings of infatuation. Her denials might have been influenced by her devout Catholic upbringing and the societal pressures faced by her prominent family to maintain its reputation. Historians speculate that Paulita's reluctance to acknowledge the relationship reflects the era's stigmas surrounding liaisons with someone as notorious as Billy the Kid. Yet, whispers of their romance persisted, amplified by rumors that Paulita was pregnant at the time of Billy's death in 1881. These claims, bolstered by community gossip and Frederick Nolan's accounts of Pat Garrett's wife, Hearing such rumors add a layer of tragedy to the tale. If true, their relationship carried implications that extended far beyond fleeting affection, hinting at a love constrained by the unforgiving realities of their time. The dynamic between Billy and Paulita encapsulates the turbulence of relationships in the rugged environment of the American West. Love and loyalty were often complicated by societal expectations, familial obligations, and personal ambition. For Billy, a fugitive navigating the dangers of law enforcement and rival factions, romantic entanglements were inherently risky. Though his reputation as a charismatic ladies' man suggests he likely had multiple romantic connections across the towns he frequented, his bond with Paulita was distinct. Her social standing and the influence of her family elevated their connection beyond a mere dalliance, imbuing it with both intrigue and poignancy. Paulita's family further complicated matters by reportedly arranging her marriage to José Jaramillo, a prosperous sheepherder. Such arrangements were common in the era, as families sought to secure advantageous alliances for their daughters. This familial pressure likely heightened the challenges in her relationship with Billy. If indeed they shared a romantic bond, it was fraught with tension stemming from societal constraints and the looming threat of Billy's perilous lifestyle. Their story, though veiled in ambiguity, captures the timeless struggle between love and the forces that seek to constrain it. Billy's complex relationship with Pat Garrett. Beyond his romantic exploits, Billy's life intersected with figures like Pat Garrett, creating one of the Old West's most intriguing narratives of friendship, rivalry, and betrayal. Garrett arrived in Fort Sumner, New Mexico in 1878, where he first encountered Billy, then known as William H. Bonney. The two men were shaped by the lawless, violent world of the Lincoln County War. Initially, their relationship appeared amicable. Both frequented local saloons like Beaver Smith's Cantina, engaging in gambling and socializing. They even earned the nicknames Big Casino and Little Casino, reflecting a camaraderie that belied the tragedy to come. Garrett, who later became sheriff, ultimately betrayed this friendship, hunting Billy down in a dramatic climax to the outlaw's short but storied life. Paulita Maxwell, a close associate of both men, described Billy and Pat as close a friend as Billy had in Fort Sumner. Their relationship, while not that of inseparable allies, was one of mutual respect and occasional dependence. They reportedly lent money to each other in times of need and shared moments of leisure and companionship. These interactions suggest a friendship rooted in their shared environment, where survival often depended on alliances, even among those destined to become adversaries. The dynamics of this relationship began to shift when Garrett was elected sheriff of Lincoln County in 1880, a role that placed him in direct opposition to Billy. Charged with upholding the law, Garrett found himself compelled to pursue the very outlaws with whom he once shared drinks and camaraderie. Reflecting on this shift, Garrett remarked, "He minds his business, and I attend to mine. I just simply don't want anything to do with him." This statement underscores how the demands of Garrett's position as a lawman erected an insurmountable barrier between the two men, transforming former friends into enemies. Death of Billy. The turning point in their rivalry came on December 23, 1880, when Garrett's posse cornered Billy and his gang at Stinking Springs. The ensuing standoff resulted in the death of gang member Charlie Boder, yet Billy, true to his reputation, managed to escape with most of his crew intact. This encounter highlighted the cunning and resilience that made Billy a legend and marked one of Garrett's early failures in his relentless pursuit of the outlaw. Billy's daring nature reached its zenith on April 28, 1881, when he executed a dramatic escape from jail. Awaiting execution for the murder of Sheriff William Brady, Billy seized an opportunity during a routine outing to overpower a guard, seize a revolver, and kill two deputies in his bid for freedom. His escape was a masterstroke of quick thinking and audacity, further solidifying his notoriety as an outlaw who could outwit even the most determined lawmen. Following his daring escape, Billy the Kid sought refuge in Fort Sumner, a place where his ties to the local community, particularly the Maxwell family, offered him a semblance of safety amidst the chaos of his fugitive life. Sympathetic to his plight, the Maxwells provided him with food, shelter, and a temporary haven from the relentless pursuit of Sheriff Pat Garrett. This return to familiar ground underscored Billy's dependence on personal alliances and the deep connections he had forged with the local community. Even as his circle of options dwindled, his ability to navigate these relationships proved vital to his survival. Billy's time in Fort Sumner was marked by a blend of socializing and risk-taking activities that showcased his charisma and adaptability. He frequented local saloons, where his charm and easy manner endeared him to residents. Among the Hispanic community, he found particular support, as many admired his rebellious spirit and the legend of his defiance against authority. This admiration translated into practical assistance. They provided him with shelter, food, and crucial information about law enforcement movements. These alliances allowed Billy to maintain a precarious balance between living openly and staying vigilant against Garrett's tightening net. Despite these moments of respite, Billy's life in Fort Sumner was anything but secure. Garrett remained determined to capture him, turning their dynamic into an intense game of cat and mouse. Garrett's pursuit was unrelenting, fueled by tips about Billy's whereabouts and a mounting public demand for the outlaw's capture. For Billy, each day carried the weight of uncertainty, as the specter of discovery loomed ever larger. Billy's survival strategy in Fort Sumner included engaging in criminal enterprises such as cattle rustling and gambling, which not only sustained him financially, but also reinforced his image as a notorious outlaw. He often worked as a Monte dealer, a role that required quick thinking and skill, earning him both money and respect in the local gambling circles. However, these activities also brought added risks as they heightened his visibility and drew attention from both lawmen and rivals. News of Garrett's pursuit only increased the tension in the area, making it increasingly difficult for Billy to remain hidden. The tension reached its peak after months of relentless searching and violent clashes between Garrett's men and Billy's gang. Garrett eventually received a tip that Billy was hiding at Pete Maxwell's ranch. Seizing the opportunity, Garrett set out to confront his elusive target. On the night of July 14, 1881, Garrett arrived at the ranch under the cover of darkness and took up a position in Pete Maxwell's bedroom. Shortly after midnight, Billy unknowingly entered the room. In the dim light, he called out in Spanish, "¿Quién es?" "Who is it?" Garrett, not waiting for confirmation, fired 2 shots. The first struck Billy just above the heart, killing him almost instantly, while the second missed its mark. The sudden and violent nature of Billy's death left little room for surrender or resistance, a fact that would later fuel controversy. Garrett described hearing Billy gasp or struggle briefly before collapsing. His life abruptly ended in the darkened room. This dramatic confrontation shocked many and sparked divided opinions. While some hailed Garrett as a hero for ending the reign of one of America's most infamous outlaws, others criticized the ambush-like tactics, viewing Billy's death as an unjust execution rather than a fair fight. The news of Billy the Kid's death spread like wildfire, capturing national attention and sparking widespread debate. Newspapers of the time sensationalized the story, presenting Billy as both a ruthless criminal and a tragic folk hero. This dual portrayal fueled the duality of his legacy. For some, he became a symbol of rebellion against an oppressive system, embodying the untamed spirit of the frontier. For others, he represented the chaos and lawlessness that plagued the Wild West. Meanwhile, Pat Garrett, the sheriff who shot Billy, found his own reputation inextricably tied to this singular event. Although celebrated by some as the lawman who vanquished the infamous outlaw, Garrett's broader career was overshadowed by the controversy surrounding the circumstances of Billy's death. In the aftermath, Garrett attempted to shape public perception by penning The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, a book that sought to validate his actions and portray himself as a heroic figure. However, historians and critics have noted significant inaccuracies and embellishments in the narrative, suggesting that Garrett may have been more concerned with self-promotion than truth. This skepticism only added to the mystique surrounding Billy and his legacy, casting doubt on the official account of his life and death. Legacy of Billy. Billy's life was marked by violence and tragedy from an early age. Orphaned as a teenager, he became embroiled in the lawlessness of the frontier, earning a reputation as a gunslinger and outlaw. By the time of his death at just 21 years old, he was rumored to have killed 21 men, one for each year of his life, though historians estimate the actual number to be closer to 9. This inflated claim, while dubious, played a significant role in cementing his image as a quintessential figure of the Wild West. The allure of his reported exploits and the charisma he was believed to have contributed to the legend that grew around him. After his death, Billy was buried in an unmarked grave in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. But even in death, his story refused to fade. The ambiguity surrounding his burial site and later claims that he had survived sparked rumors, conspiracy theories, and continued public fascination. Stories of possible sightings and imposters kept the myth alive, blurring the line between fact and fiction. Over time, Billy the Kid transformed from a historical figure into an enduring cultural icon, embodying the complexities of the American frontier. This transformation was further amplified by popular media, which has extensively romanticized Billy the Kid's story. From dime novels to Hollywood films, he has been depicted as both a heroic rebel and a merciless outlaw. Movies such as Billy the Kid, 1941, The Left-Handed Gun, 1958, and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, 1973, have contributed to the mythologization, exploring themes of rebellion, loyalty, and tragedy. These portrayals often blur historical accuracy in favor of creating a compelling narrative, ensuring Billy's story continues to captivate audiences across generations. Billy's legend also serves as a reflection of broader themes in American culture, such as individualism, resistance to authority, and the moral ambiguity of frontier justice. His life and legacy encapsulate the challenges of navigating a lawless and often unforgiving environment, where survival demanded quick wits, resourcefulness, and sometimes ruthless violence. These contradictions make Billy the Kid a figure who resonates not only as a historical character, but also as a cultural metaphor. The way history remembers Billy the Kid is as complex as the man himself. While some see him as a cold-blooded killer, others regard him as a tragic hero. A young man shaped by hardship and injustice, caught in a system that left little room for redemption. This dichotomy has allowed his story to remain relevant, sparking discussions about justice, morality, and the nature of heroism in the American psyche. Over a century after his death, Billy the Kid endures as both a historical enigma and a symbol of the enduring tension between freedom and order. What are your thoughts on Billy the Kid's life? Misunderstood hero or ruthless outlaw? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.